I was having a buildup of shows that I'd created and published, but I hadn't got a chance to get them on the various platforms, and I wanted to have them on 3 or 4 or 5 different platforms. I think there's other content creators out there that are struggling to keep up with getting their uploads done, and so I want to recommend them to my good friend Jerry. Jerry has done an excellent job helping me with my podcast and catching up on things I was behind on.
Sometimes when you upload a video, there can be errors, and that's the stuff I don't want content creators such as yourself to go through. I want to help you. I upload it to your platform. I upload clips to media channels in a fast and efficient manner. I serve freedom fighters. I take weight off their shoulders so they can focus on their content creation. It takes a while to just get a clip uploaded, and sometimes you don't want to worry about that stuff. I take this to heart, and I help the people that care for freedom.
Hello, friends. This is Chris Jansen. I'm here with an Evil podcast. Evil is the destruction of freedom. And on the topic of freedom, I got my good friend Jerry Tappan here, and we've been working together for geez, how long we have been working together since like on different things for at least 2 years, right, Jerry?
Over a year.
Yeah. When we first met, Jerry, I remember you were wearing fatigues, and you were like, we were on a Zoom meeting, and you were like in a cafeteria with looks like a bunch of GI Joes to me. Like you were still in the military at that time, and I was a little worried. I was like, I don't know, this guy's a military guy. But it was obvious you had a very open mind, and you had just been looking through Mark Passio's work, and you were really like getting interested and dedicated to freedom and the freedom movement. And that was about the time you joined Autonomy, correct?
Yes, exactly.
So I brought you on today on this interview because I wanted to discuss the path of the entrepreneur. It's something I've been working on for a solid 3 years, more really. I started my entrepreneur path like more like 8 years ago when I originally quit my government job and I tried to begin selling a product online. And since then, I've done various freelancing work and just found a way to supplement any income I make. And I've been working more and more towards being able to provide income to myself online. And I'm not 100% there the way I'd like to be yet. So I'm not coming to our audience saying, here's all the answers, here's all the solutions. But I do want to encourage people on the path of the entrepreneur. And I thought hearing your journey and hearing my journey might help other people in terms of maybe not making some of the mistakes we've made and encouraging them in the positive directions, and also kind of warning about some of the challenges and obstacles you're going to run into. So maybe just briefly, could you kind of, or take your time if you want, Jerry, and describe to people like kind of what your journey has been thus far. Like let's start where what gave you the idea to take this path of entrepreneur. Let's start there.
I'll try to make it brief and take my time at the same time. So let's see if I can do it.
Cover all
So
bases.
exactly. It started really, as a kid. I have memories of this one day in school. Like it might have just been us, the kids, talking about like being entrepreneurs, like selling stuff to each other. And I really had a good time as I look back now. And fast forward, actually, I want to just mention as a kid and an adolescent, I was, never planning on joining the military. I was always somewhat like a rebel, for lack of better words. And, as I became an adult, I realized my life wasn't going where I wanted it to go. And people were suggesting me to join the military because all of these benefits. and that's the marketing right there. They fucking I apologize for cursing, but they
No,
really
you're fine. You can swear on my podcast. Fuck it.
I'll try not to.
It's
They
Rick
got me
show
good.
where you gotta watch out on that.
On
With
Crip
the Rick.
Show, I got it for sure, and I bought into it. The marketing was good, and well, I was taking orders, and I couldn't. It wasn't for me, and anyways, I came across. I It all started when I wanted to learn. That's when my life changed by not being selfish and learning, caring for the world. That's when I opened my mind, and
Your heart,
that's
right?
when I'm sorry?
That's actually opening that heart chakra for, not just the mind, but the heart, right? When you realize, oh, it's about care, you know?
That's exactly right, and that had something to do with entrepreneurship because as soon as I came across the autonomy landing page, which is a course, an online course that teaches you entrepreneurship skills and life skills, it really I resonated with me, and I was scared because I didn't have the funds, but the marketing was good, and I appreciate that ethical marketing because of where I am today. I do not regret joining Autonomy. I actually plan on selling Autonomy to who I deem is a good fit for the course, and that is through affiliate marketing. But anyways, I'm gonna move on and say I made the right choice because entrepreneurship has changed my life. I am no longer the military Jerry. I am the freedom focused Jerry, and entrepreneurship is a big role in that. So I'll pass it back to you first.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, that affiliate thing's awesome. I've had, if you go to endevil.life, right on the little sidebar there, I got a link that will send folks to autonomy. And, it's like if we're spending, this is something I was trying to make a point in our recent meeting with the Warriors. If we're focusing our time on working towards freedom, the more time and energy that we can focus in that direction, the better. And it's not just like you said, the care aspect isn't just caring about the self, it's also caring about other people. And one thing I've noticed is, like when I first came to some heavy realizations back in years ago, I was actually working on a government job. And it really started occurring to me that I didn't feel good about my paycheck coming from taxes when I don't fundamentally agree with taxes because it's a form of stealing. And there are aspects of our society. One of them I give an example of, like driving, where I know there's people out there that are saying now, I don't need a driver license and trying to go around and willing to argue with the cops and judges on that. And I think that's a good step. But for me, like that's not a step. It's too risky, up front. But there's something that can be done first prior to that, and that's to set up myself kind of a foundation of a way to make money that doesn't require going through the typical jobs, like you're saying. People will tell you go to the military, get a job with a big company. So you have, life insurance, you have retirement, you have, and those things are all great. And in some ways, I wish I had them right now, but it wouldn't be honest and true to my principles to take that path because it's a shortcut in a way that you're like um, we're sacrificing principles at every step. And there's enough of that going on out there, like I said, with like, for instance, still having a driver license or still paying for car insurance that I don't feel too good about. But the one that I have been able to make progress on is my work. Getting work where I'm working for other people that are caring about freedom, number one. And then number two, where I have a little more choice of how that money comes to me and who gets to touch it on the way to me in terms of what middleman takes money out before they give it to me, or how I decide what my money and my energy goes to. And so it becomes more personal, it becomes more my choice. who I pay and when, you know, instead of like, when I work for the government, they just take their money right out. You never see it. And so I think it's important if someone cares from their heart truly about freedom that certain sacrifices have to be made. But that being said, we don't want to starve, we don't want to be on the street. How are we going to get our message out to the public about freedom, if we can't afford to keep our internet on and, our computer updated? So tell me a little bit about the struggles you've been through, um, Jerry, on this entrepreneur journey. Let's make it real for people.
Yeah, it wasn't until recently that I became activated. So I spent a lot of time thinking about taking the action, but never did. So that alone was a big struggle, as in where to put my time in, and wearing too many hats and being, what's it called, the jack
Scattered.
of all trades
Oh yeah.
instead of focusing on one thing. What are the priorities right now? What's the goal? How do I get there? Analyzing it, communicating with others, getting feedback, socializing, all of these things. I took it all upon me, and it's not sustainable. And I'm that person who, if it wasn't for my parents, I really might be in the streets right now. And I had on January 5th, I had like a really, I was crying. I broke down. I like the truth, reality hit me. I said, the way I've been living my life has led me here, and it's really my fault. And I have the power to flip it around, not be a victim. And I think that's the first step, Chris, to not be a victim. You have to. I have to take accountability, responsibility. That's freedom. And then I knew what I had to do. I was willing to work my ass off 24/7 so I don't live on the streets anymore, because I want to be able to live, have a roof over my head, do the great work, meaning having good computer. That's my goal. And like I told you, this was recent. Uh, I have a lot of work to do. However, that was necessary for me to, at least I think, to learn from my mistake. That's really important. Me learning from my mistakes so they don't occur again. That's like, what do you call it? Insanity. Doing the same thing, expecting different results. It's really it's serious. So I know I have to be a man of my word, which was something I was lacking, and it's not good for the self when you say you're gonna do something and you don't. And entrepreneurship, it's a challenge. You have to communicate with people. I might not want to communicate with people, but it's required to for freedom. And I'll pass it back to you first.
Thanks, Jerry. And I think this is important. I want to bring up networking next. But before I even go into networking, like the importance of friends and peers that will aid you on this journey. Like I can reflect to you, I know your perspective now is that, you've kind of come to this reactivation this year, which is very exciting for me because I've been watching you grow for the last year before that. And I feel like it's even longer. Maybe it's not, but I know you've been working on building these skills for quite some time. You've gone through a couple computers. You've showed up at all these meetings through autonomy. You've put yourself in a position of even taking leadership roles and running meetings, and you started doing work for content creators, well over a year ago, and kind of getting your feet wet. And yeah, I know you made some mistakes and it didn't all go perfect, but that's what all that work you did kind of built you to this point now where you're reigniting yourself. And this is something that we all have to do is reignite ourselves and reactivate. And this is something that I want to help people with, our audience, you, whoever's listening, encourage you to get motivated, to get inspired, and to engage your willpower, because that's the thing that makes the difference. Because what Jerry and I are going to talk about today is the path to the entrepreneur. I mean, I think it can be simple and easy. Some people have sort of just stepped into a position that they were already good at and they already had the right skills and they meet the right person at the right time and boom, they're off and running. But I would say that's a rarity. For most of us, there are like a mountain of challenges that make it seem overwhelming or impossible. Like you said earlier, we're trying to wear all these different hats. When I originally tried to start my online business, I was selling a product through Amazon. And I learned some hard lessons doing that um, because I realized that I was trying to be my own accountant, my own salesman, my own advertising and marketing department, my own research and develop department. You know what I mean? Like, and the people I was competing with out there that were selling other products on Amazon that were similar, they have teams of people that do these things. And so it was kind of hard to, it was like a big gulp. I thought, oh, I'm going to start this thing and I'm going to make lots of money. And I wound up kind of breaking even. I didn't lose lots of money, but I learned, the lesson I learned was so valuable at that point. It was about, and that's what leads me into networking. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit about, I know a lot of the networking you've done through autonomy is huge, and also through like the One Great Work Network, and our freedom cells, and this type of thing. So tell me a little bit about how it's helped you having the online community, online freedom community, and how you use networking to work on this path towards entrepreneurship.
Yeah, networking is huge. I heard in the Do It Live recently, which a Do It Live is an autonomy meeting where there will be a student hosting the podcast, and that goes through what happened that week in autonomy. And the most recent Do It Live, the host Carl, he brought up networking, and he said your net worth is your network, something like that. So it's like who do you know? That determines your net worth. So I think that's a really good quote, and to share, and to like really think about like who am I surrounding myself with? Like am I surrounding myself with half doers or people that are putting their 100% dedication into what they do? And you can see, you can compare and contrast and see, the results and see the difference. So I have to show up for myself first, take care of myself, the shadow work, having my schedule on point, having alarms, and getting, it's not all work, work, work. It's also, hey, get some rest because tomorrow's going to be a big day. And if I show up, sleepy, there's the risk. So it's about risk management, and it's having the positive attitude, that self doubt, and the baggage, to let that go. It's not serving me, and I need to focus on providing value. So I've that's my goal, to provide value wherever I go. And networking is super valuable. It's a win-win. That's my goal. So I come into a situation and provide value and overcome solutions, because there's going to be problems, but I might have a different perspective than someone else, and that can be the answer, and that might pay off. That may earn me $10,000, and then I can invest that, educate myself on budgeting and not spending money I don't have, learn from my mistakes, and that can turn into, okay, now I have a good computer. Now I don't have to work for the man. And just build. And I want to be like Richard Grove, having a business, and or essentially when he started Tragedy and Hope, he was dedicating all his time to research, and that's what I want to do. It's really about helping the world, but I have to educate myself first, not be ignorant, so I can teach others the great work.
Yeah, and in the world of finance and business, I discovered quite a while back, like I said, when I began this entrepreneurial journey 8 to 10 years ago or whatever it was, um, someone podcasted it was going around this thing about Napoleon Hill and mastermind meetings. And so I've done quite a few mastermind meetings over the years since then. And, some have kind of fizzled out, but I've done so much learning and networking through those groups. There's earlier podcasts with Shane from libertyunderattack.com and Vanu, the Vanu podcast. And like I have a deal with him where you could go on Liberty Under Attack and get books and get a little discount from using the End Evil code. That's on my endevil.life website. So like, or like, the link to autonomy, where if someone wants to join autonomy and they go through my affiliate link, I might be able to get a little bonus out of that, for bringing someone in. And so this is something I haven't leveraged to the point that I'd like to, where most of the stuff I do is for free and I'm just trying to help people out. Like my friend Agnieszka, that you also know from Autonomy, I've advertised for her service on my show and I know that she's gotten some contacts, probably customers through that. And like everyone I bring on the podcast is an opportunity to broadcast what they want to say to other people. And I really appreciate providing that conduit. And it's not something that I ever really want to charge money for. Sometimes on the show I'll say, hey man, if anyone can help me out with some donations, I'd really appreciate it because I pay quite a bit to keep the show going out of my own pocket. And then besides the time, and energy, but I do it from my heart. And so, if someone wants to donate, that's from their heart. But that being said, I know my next challenge in my journey is to put my offer to the market and offer my skills and value to people so that, like you said, we can create that win-win situation. I have a lot to offer as well as so do you, and that's why today I'm really kind of like premiering your service that you're starting up. I'm going to show that little ad I made in the beginning and at the end of the show. Folks, if you're creating content, like connect with Jerry, and he's going to be doing uploads. And Jerry, I think you also do clips. He can do good clips, cut clips out of your work, help you get your stuff online on various websites like BitChute and YouTube and all these platforms. Which is, there's kind of a lot to it. It's not super complicated, but it's time consuming and it's overwhelming. And there are a lot of little pieces. You got to have your thumbnail, you got to have your description, you got to have your title, and then it takes upload time. And so you have to have the right internet connection to be able to do that in an efficient manner. And I think a lot of people realize they don't realize what they're getting into when they first start a show or podcast, that there's a lot of work every week if you want to keep up like a weekly show. I can't imagine these people that do daily shows, they have to have a team because just trying to do one podcast a week, um, sometimes I spend 4 to 6 hours, leading up to the podcast and then another 2 or 3 hours getting things. And then I've never even been able to keep up until you started helping me with the uploads. So um, maybe we can talk a little bit about that balance of time and energy. You had that really cool slide. You want to bring up that one you got from that recent Do It Live?
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
Because I think this is really important to talk about the balance of energy. A lot of people might be like how I was when I started this, where I had kids and a full time job. And it seems like, how the hell am I possibly going to go from where I'm at to doing all this other work and doing all this learning and then start making money from all the learning? That's a lot of time to put in where I'm not making anything. And that's a tricky process. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the balance of life and work and in this path.
Yeah, I mean, this slide really hit me, and yeah, I think once I became activated, like all this makes sense to me. So the care element is huge. But anyhow, the goal of this was to kind of like these are the essentials for a good life. So health, without the help, like if one of these three pillars is like
Lacking.
missing, is lacking, the other two aren't gonna they're gonna suffer as a result. So the goal is to have all these three balanced, right? You want it good. So health, physical, I believe it's important to get some exercise daily. Go out, get sun. It's good for the mental health as well. And we all know it's that's been what do you call it, popular nowadays. The depression, overcoming that. It's a lot of work. And then consistency. That's something I've been struggling with, Chris. Is being consistent. Uh, the longest I've worked out for in a row is maybe 4 months. But my goal is to do this daily. Like my long term vision is decades, but I have to start small. So take it one step at a time. All right, now the wealth, as you know, money. Uh, these are all limited things. So energy, we have a limited amount of energy. If I'm working every like all day, like I'm gonna get tired. With the money, of course, that's a limited resource. If not, we wouldn't really have this conversation. um, but yeah, income, that's determines how much money you have. Assets, like how much your house is worth, if you own it. Digital products, things of that nature, and networking, right? So Richard Grove, I think he is. I consider that money. Networking with him, there's opportunities everywhere. I just have to take them. And then relationships, time is a limited resource, which is more valuable than money. And I need money to have more time. And self-esteem, uh, this one is really important. So not having not waiting for an authority to tell me what to do, but I provide myself what I need. I love myself. And then social status, to have principles, and then communication, getting your message, having your offer clear. So the message has to be clear. And if that's what makes a good life.
Yeah, it's a juggling act. I mean, we find ourselves at different places where we have to focus on any one of these for a time, but like if your health isn't good, how are you gonna have um consistent goals being met, you know? Um, so sometimes you have to kind of take a break on the things you're doing and deal with your health for a minute. And then, like what I've experienced is when you're working for yourself and, I got to take a week off to deal with a health issue, I don't get paid that week, because I'm still working for the most part with hourly. I think the goal would be my personal to start having, digital assets or evergreen products so that some money could be coming in regardless of whether I'm working by the hour. So that's one of my next smart goals for this year, and we'll talk about smart goals in a minute. But so how about your mental health, right? If you're going through depression or anxiety, which things I've experienced, having to move, having to change jobs, having to change relationships, these things take a toll. And we have to kind of create some space in our life and understand that we've got to give ourselves some time to do that self work and work through these things. And one of the things I've realized personally on the mental health is that, it's easy to kind of like get impatient with yourself and be like, I'm not doing good enough. It's so common. And everybody I know, I've heard them do it. We start getting in these negative kind of self talk conversations where it's looking at all the things I don't have or that I'm not good at, rather than taking inventory of what I got going for me and gratitude. And then when I'm in that space of gratitude and giving, it feels like more stuff shows up. Whereas when I'm in that space of this is what I don't have and this is what's not working, it can kind of be a cyclical kind of negative experience. And so the health and your energy is huge. How are you going to go out there and make money and create a website or start advertising or marketing if you're all kind of like beat down and sad and you don't want to talk to people, for instance, you know? So these things are all tied together. Our relationship with ourself, that's what we're talking about, our self-esteem. Um, I just wanted to mention before I hand it back to you that one of the last times I talked to Richard Grove in an autonomy lecture, close to the beginning of the season, I was starting to do that hosting, shadow hosting of the lectures, which has been quite a journey. I had to make some mistakes, and sometimes I was embarrassed for the mistakes I made, but I've learned so much. And I think that's a skill that will open doors for me in the future, being able to run webinars and host behind the scenes and know the technicalities to doing that, which is something I've been really practicing and working, and autonomy kind of gives you that opportunity. But also having a podcast gives me that opportunity, learning to work this. But what I'm getting at is Richard asked me, he goes like, what's one of the biggest things you've learned, since you began this journey and you started autonomy? And the answer I gave at the time, you know, um, I realized upon reflection, it wasn't really the biggest thing. And I don't even remember what I specifically said that time, but what I realized is the biggest thing has been mindset. And this is kind of what I'm hoping you could reply to a little bit. The mindset is my biggest obstacle, 100%. That self-limiting script that plays in the head that says, "Oh, you don't know enough about that. You're not an expert on that. How can you talk on that? Um, you've never done that before. People probably won't like it." All those kind of like societal assumptions of who can do what. Whenever you hear stories of people that have achieved great things or who have raised the bar and written bestseller books and stuff, their stories are about believing in themselves, of having a dream or a goal that no one else even might have thought was possible, and going for it, even though everybody told them it's no good. I think there's a pretty famous story of what's his name, Sylvester Stallone, who did the Rocky movies, that where I guess he started out. The story I've heard is he started out with that script, and he was going around hitting director or producer, I don't know what they call them, people after people, trying to get him to make this movie, and no one wanted to fund it. They didn't think it was going to be a good movie, and he just never gave up. He believed in his story and his movie, and he fucking proved them that it was a movie that made a lot of money. How many Rockies do they have? 5, 6? I don't even know. And so that's just one example, but there's many like that, of people that have had that mindset that I'm going to achieve, I'm going to do this regardless. And that's what I'm talking about with willpower. And we need to activate that willpower. And I'm trying to encourage people. But can you tell us your thoughts on that mindset aspect somewhat there, Jerry?
Yeah, of course. So I'm thinking about content creation. So I know I've I hear people say, content creators, that they don't get enough views and it seems like their work is for nothing. But this is when the mindset comes in. And I have a slide to share, so I'm gonna go to my next slide that I really enjoy. Uh, I saw this recently, and I it really resonated with me. This is my uh, my laptop's background screen, and this is okay. I might not be the best clip cutter or video uploader, right? But I can afford to be optimistic, be on time, be prepared, be patient, be polite, be creative. And all these bullet points on the left hand side, it's required for success, along with um, not giving up. But I think this little description on the right hand side really nails it. So I'm going to read it. Oftentimes, not yet successful people neglect the fact that while they might be short on cash, they are immensely armed with resources which they can call to their aid at any time. This is also their folly. Neglecting this aspect of wealth, it starts in the mind and flows back to you through action. So, I would recommend having a slide like this or like a mantra or something to, keep you going, to keep you positive because the world is full of negativity. And this slide, it brings me joy every time I see it.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to the smart goals. I think small wins are part of what has propelled me on my journey. And so goals are kind of a weird thing where goals can actually set us back sometimes. Like I've had times where I set a goal and then I realized I didn't achieve that goal and then I felt kind of depressed about it. And so there is sort of like taking some care of the goals we set, that they're manageable. And then there's sort of like we have to kind of develop this thick skin where we realize in the entrepreneur journey, everybody you listen to who everybody I've ever heard who's achieved big things in the entrepreneurial world has had some big falls and big losses. And maybe some of these millionaires lost millions of dollars and were down to nothing and then went bankrupt and started over and did it again. And so, it's developing that thick skin. And one of the ways I've been able to do that is through small wins. When I met, when like you were saying, I'm a content creator and I've gone through that depression lots of times, not getting many views, feeling like not enough people are paying attention, especially considering how much work I've put into it. But shoot, look at the One Great Work Warriors is a perfect example. You and myself and Brandon and Derek and Jim and Rick have been meeting for a solid year, producing all this content. It's a beautiful network of we support one another's work. We encourage one another to get better at our arts. And so we have this resource now of these, other five guys that we can connect with and talk about man stuff. We could talk about philosophy, and we didn't have that before. And that all sprouted out of me doing this podcast and opening an email list and sending a letter to the people on my email list saying, "Hey, I want to form a small group of people that really care about truth and freedom." And you answered that call, and so did Brandon, so did Jim, and I met with each of you individually. And because what I'd learned from past experiences with creating meetings is it's really important that the people that we connect with that share similar principles and we're on a similar path. Because otherwise, a community or a group is going to be very divergent if they're not on the same page. But after interviewing each of you, I could tell clearly each of you had that same. We were all on the same page, and then when we got together and meet and talked about it, we realized like, yeah, even though we're all very different, and we do have different goals on our own personal lives, we all share this one goal, the one great work, and caring about truth and freedom and natural law. And so we've been able to achieve a lot with that. And it was a big small, it's a small win, but it's also huge to me that, well, you could say I don't have many viewers, but I obviously have some really good viewers, If we were able to form a free mastermind group that's lasted all this time and we've created all this content, and that all sprouted from me running this show. And you know, Brandon also has always been producing content, and then each of you have done your own content. Rick, does his show every week with consistency, and it's amazing. So yeah, where am I going with this, Jerry? Jump in.
Yeah, you know, before I joined the military, I was living at a friend's house, and my friend's mom said, "I think everybody should join. I think everybody or adolescent or person coming out of high school should join the military." And I think everybody should learn entrepreneurship. I'll pass it back to you, Chris.
Okay, yeah, I remember I was going to go next. I have these two slides, and I wanted to share these because they're right on the path to what we're discussing here. Let me bring up the first one. It is, yes, there it is. Shift out of first gear. Is that what you're seeing? Uh,
Yes.
so, like I was talking, maybe you, whoever's listening to this, maybe you have a full time job right now, maybe you have no job, maybe you have a lot of responsibilities, family issues. kids to take care of. You can't all at once change everything in your life. You can try, but it's going to be devastating. What proves to work, like we said, is consistency and incremental change and building new habits. And that's something I'm going to talk about in the future a lot more because I'm going to keep encouraging people to activate their willpower this year. And I want to help people with that. So if you're feeling like a beginner on this work, um, small attainable goals. Choose goals that you can actually imagine yourself achieving so you can get some small wins and that will build that confidence. I've talked a lot of times about my little push ups in the morning thing. Start out with something that's so easy you can't not do it. I started out with just doing a few push ups. And then when you do it for 2, 3 weeks, it becomes a habit. And then you get better and better. And then it seems like just normal part of life. That's also true with like speaking live. I speak live every week on these Zoom meetings. How many Zoom meetings and live conversations and recorded conversations have I done in the last year? Hundreds. You know what I mean? So it's really no thing. I'll go online with anybody now and have that I remember the first time I interviewed Mark Passio or when I did that interview with Richard Grove, I was so nervous. It was like, even though I am a public speaker, I still got nervous because I respect these guys. I look up to them. And there's been a few times when I put myself in that scenario, and each time you do it, you get a little less nervous the next time. When I first did the shadow hosting, God, I was so nervous I could barely see all the things on my screen. I was getting panicked, and that's why I made some mistakes early on. And when I got past that and started able to calm my mindset, I was able to think more clearly. And so you kind of have to create that environment where you can make some mistakes, and that's partly done through, like we're talking about, the networking, and that gives you this consistent accountability. Like you can make your own show, and if you're making your own show, no one can really talk that much bad about it. I mean, they can, but who cares? You get to a certain point, you don't like it anymore, delete it, start over. You know what I mean? What's the worst case thing? Nobody watches it. You know what I mean? That's not really that big of a problem. Then you just revamp it and make it to where more people will watch it. So, building up your discipline, like I said, you're doing this exercise every day, whatever it is that you want to start working towards, do a little bit of it, not the whole thing. Don't try to take on the whole, kit and caboodle. I think the way I went at it of quitting my job and just going full bore was a mistake, honestly. Um, I think it doesn't make sense to go about it that way most times because it can be disastrous, and then you could get yourself in a position where now you got no way to pay your bills and you're like, why did I do this? I'm never going to do this again. It's better to little by little build the skill and then start developing. Then add the weight as you go to the gym. I mean, you go to the gym for 3 months in a row, you can add like 20-pound weights, 40-pound weights, and all of a sudden you're like, damn, how can I lift so much weight? It's because you've built up the discipline to be able to do that, and you stretch your imagination and your belief system partly too, as well as the muscles. And then more advanced would be making a bigger goal, and making a when you get to the point where you can make big giant goals and not be afraid to not achieve them because you have enough of these small wins under your belt that you're not easily dissuaded. You can say, "Yeah, I lost money before. I don't care. I could lose some money. I'll bounce back." That's why these millionaire salesmen, marketer guys aren't afraid because they know they can start over. Drop me in any town with no money, I'll get there. And I'm not saying I'm there. I'm not, but and then in the end of the advance, it says go beyond that goal and make that a new spot, your goal. Even if you fail at the 10x goal, you will likely meet, attain, and beat your initial goal. And I think that is very advanced. And I would say if you feel like you're a beginner, don't start pushing yourself on those advanced things. Start at the beginner. Um, I'm still just kind of like getting through that beginner and just getting ready to push myself to the advance. I feel like that's where I'm at in my journey. So, anything strike you from this slide that you want to talk about, Jerry?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I said, small steps uh, guarantee success.
Yeah, consistent effort. And so, we got thanks to Richard for Richard Grove for putting together these slides. He has just millions of slides and that are valuable. His lectures just, yeah, you have to watch them 4, 5, 6 times before you can even begin to soak it in because there's so much. And that's why it's overwhelming at first when you start the entrepreneur journey. There's so much. There's uh, email marketing, there's copywriting, there's graphics, there's file storage, there's communicating with people, learning to not be afraid of no's, learning to how to talk to people, how to ask questions. It just goes on and on. But I'm going to bring up one last slide here that I wanted to share. Let me stop that one. And then I got one more here that kind of has a good little list, I think. And it is 11 steps to earning online income without a product or service. So, one of the other things that he teaches is that you don't necessarily need um, to have a product or a service and you can still make money. Like we talked about, there's affiliate marketing, and that happens through networking. So, here's some of the steps: observe, identify, invest, acquire, attain, and then back to observe, initiate, relate, build, gain, relax, then repeat. Um, I'll pass it to you for a minute, Jerry. I'd like you to comment on this, and then I'm going to kind of look through. I don't know if I want to read every word on this slide, but go ahead.
Yeah, as you said, it's essentially we're drinking tsunami through a straw. You know, step number 11, like the word relax is super important. Like I have to have control of myself, relax myself. No, if I'm beginning, I have to be okay with not understanding everything at once. So really just let it like just watch, like look at the lecture, read it first. Like don't panic. Just like think, ask the question, hey, fear, what are you doing here? Oh, you're just here to intimidate me? All right, I don't need you. Bye. Boom. And then focus. Have to focus because you can't do two things at once. So focus. What is in front of me and really learn. So what I'm saying is the first time when you look at an image like this or slide, read it, like take it easy. And then automatically you'll start, the gears will turn and you will understand.
And there, I think one big thing, not on this particular slide, but I know it's talked about quite a bit, is our whole society, our whole culture has this idea that mistakes are the worst thing. And that kind of partly comes from the schooling, like we talked about last week, um, in education as a solution. Schooling kind of teaches you that mistakes are bad, and you get bad grades and you screwed up. But in reality, the path of the entrepreneur, mistakes are learning opportunities. And, you know, um, like I said, when I started my first business, um, I did lose a little bit of money. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to teach me a good lesson. I don't care about that money I lost anymore. It's like as if I would have put $1,000 into a course that gave me skills that are going to last a lifetime. I'll never have to make those mistakes in exactly in the same way. I'll make the same ones in slightly different ways in the future, but they're learning opportunities. And it's like what Richard calls falling forward or triggering complexity. And we learn to look at problems and mistakes as opportunities to grow and to learn. Most growth comes from some type of pain. It's just the reality of life. So if we don't put ourselves in those situations and take some risks, then we don't get those learning opportunities. And if we don't keep this perspective that that it's good to make mistakes and learn and take risks, then we don't get that vision, right? Um, the other big thing I was going to think about, we should talk about a little bit is the I'm going to stop this share. One thing that has been a big learning thing for me is the observation. It talks about in that slide, observing, right? If you want to do a product or a service, a lot of it is understanding what people on the other end need or what they're looking for. And that's the same with marketing. Everything I've studied with marketing is you need to understand your customer and listen to what they need. And that's a lot what was in that slide too, is you're attaining this knowledge and this ability of what are other people out there doing? How are other people selling their service? So a lot of it is observation. You can think if you want to sell a service or you want to start a website, go on a website of somebody who's already doing that. Observe what they're doing. How are they reaching people? How did they set up their website? When you get these emails from marketing or look at what do they put in their title? What do they put in their subject? How did they get your attention? Which emails got your attention that you clicked on? Why did you click on that thing? You know, the more you start to analyze and question these things, the more we learn, right? Like, oh, that's how I get people's attention. Oh, that's what people are interested in. So a lot of it is asking questions and observing. And then once you get those things, then you can repeat and relax and all that. But first, a lot of it up front is observation skills and recognizing what other people want and need and not so much what I want and need, which is the natural way we usually start the entrepreneur. I need money, you know. But if you come at people with that point of view, I need money, they resist, they react. But if you come at people like, hey, what do you need? How can I help you? That's a total different flavor. So yeah, like to hear your reply on that.
Yeah, I mean, I can argue that's one of the most important skills, providing value. And you know, the way the world is run is people just want money. Look where we are. I mean, this is real. This is how to market, provide value. Don't uh, you know, money will come as a result of ethical marketing. I'll put it like that.
Well, I think your offer that we're discussing this week is a good example. You know, what we're gonna do is share your Calendly link, and then like someone, for instance, could set up an appointment as soon as they scan that QR code or type in Calendly backslash Jerry Tappan. How do you pronounce your last name? Have I been saying it wrong? Tappan,
Do you know the Tappan Zee Bridge in New York? Just like that.
Tappan. Oh, I'm saying it right. Good, good.
Mhm.
You be tapping on his link, and then you get
Yeah.
in there, and then look at Jerry's an easy guy to talk to, right? He'll ask you some questions about your content procedure, and then what do you need? What are your hopes? And you guys can work out something that works for you and that works for him. That's a win-win. Or you might realize in the conversation that, oh, we're not necessarily the best match. No problem. No harm done. It was a free meeting. You just got some free information and made a friend, maybe. You know what I mean? There's no danger in putting an offer to the market, and there's no danger in someone having that meeting with you and saying, "Oh, maybe it's not what I'm looking for," or "Yeah, that's freaking perfect. I need you to start right away." You know, and here's, we can work out a good deal. So, if people are out there and they're trying to get started on this content creation and they're having too many obstacles, one possibility might be to hire someone like Jerry to help you with your uploads and help you with your social media management because he's learned how to do it over time in an organized manner. So it just takes that weight off your shoulders and the weight off of your brain as you're watching that loading thing, waiting for your video to load and you can't do other things on your computer because it's occupied. So, um, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing um, that your service is growing, Jerry, and I'm excited that you're putting that offer out. Anything else you wanted to say on that topic?
Yeah, you're helping me out with this, Chris, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah, it's a good example of networking. You do a good deed for someone, and then they do a good deed for you. A lot of times there's ways, agorisms about trade, and it doesn't always have to be money. I've had people that have worked for me for Bitcoin. I've had people that I've traded time and energy for their time and energy on what they know about, and so there's a lot of ways to work things with people that care about freedom and in order to find a win-win scenario. And so that is a huge opportunity over the normal commercial market out there that is just completely about greed and money with no real purpose or underlying passion for what matters. So I think all of us that care about freedom need to start practicing little by little agorism ways of um, not only bringing in income but putting our income into other people that are doing the right thing instead of giving it to Walmart and Target and whoever these commercial big giant goons are on the internet that will provide you a simple solution, but they're not really going to be there for you with customer service or something goes wrong or if you need to work out a deal like, oh man, I just had a car accident and I don't have any money this month, but you know, if you've been working out a personal deal with someone and they have a hardship, maybe you can work something out, or maybe you can make a trade. And that's the kind of advantage we have by becoming entrepreneurs and networking with each other that we can work from the heart instead of just the wallet, you know.
So worth it, bro. Like, I feel like even if I'm not successful, this is what I'm gonna do because I find joy in it.
That's beautiful. And if you have that kind of passion, I mean, how could you fail? You know? So yeah. Hey, great talk, Jerry. I'm really glad you set aside this time to have this conversation with me. And I'm thinking maybe a couple weeks down the road, we'll do a roundtable and bring in other people and have more discussion about this topic of entrepreneur, the path to becoming an entrepreneur. And we'll keep this discussion going. I want to keep motivating and activating more people out there. It's really good when we see new people come onto the podcast. Last week we had Jeffrey, which he said this is the first time I came on the show. I want to start doing more. That's great. That's why we do this is to open the door for more people to come in. 3 or 4 years ago, you or I, we didn't have the skills we have now. We didn't have the network we have now. And all those things came about by us taking the initiative, by taking the small steps, joining the group, maybe putting out a little bit of money for a course or a lot, depending on how you're feeling about it. Um, but be careful where you put your money too. I would also warn people, a lot of these marketing stuff out there is I'm not saying there's not value in it, but people will charge exorbitant amounts because they don't really care about you. So I would say, we really want to try to work for people that show that care, and we're going to get the best results in the long run of how we feel about ourselves. And that, like we said, that balance, right? Part of it's keeping the mental and emotional feeling good about our purpose and the people we work with. You don't want to work with people you don't trust or that are have a satanic ideology. So, oh, you're
Thanks so much.
oh, okay, there you go.
Thank you so much for having me on, Chris. This was beautiful. I will be attending the roundtable discussion.
Great. I encourage people to check out, set up a meeting with Jerry if you're interested in getting some help on your content creation and social media, especially on the uploads to the social platforms.
Absolutely.
Great
Take care,
show. All
viewership.
right, Jerry, have a great day. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Evil's the destruction of freedom, folks. And I was having a buildup of shows that I'd created and published, but I hadn't got a chance to get them on the various platforms, and I wanted to have them on 3 or 4 or 5 different platforms. I think there's other content creators out there that are struggling to keep up with getting their uploads done, and so I want to recommend them to my good friend Jerry. Jerry has done an excellent job helping me with my podcast and catching up on things I was behind on.
Sometimes when you upload a video, there can be errors. And that's the stuff I don't want content creators such as yourself to go through. I want to help you. I upload it to your platform. I upload clips to media channels in a fast and efficient manner. I serve freedom fighters. I take weight off their shoulders so they can focus on their content creation. It takes a while to just get a clip uploaded, and sometimes you don't want to worry about that stuff. I take this to heart, and I help the people that care for freedom.
I'm, I'm in a cage. I'm in a prison. I'm in a mental prison, and a physical one at that, and definitely a spiritual one, whether that's recognized at a conscious level.